Hello and welcome to Santos on Sports. I am Paul Santos. He is Chris Santos. We have a lot to talk about today. We want to first thank our sponsors, Scotty's Pub, 202 Pleasant Street, Fall River, Citywide Glass with 3 locations to serve you in Dartmouth, Fall River, and Taunton, Lakeville Athletic Club, 325 Bedford Street in Lakeville, and John Seed, attorney at law, 156 8th Street in New Bedford. You can go get more information at johnseedlaw.com. Chris, how are you doing today?
I'm well, Paul, and you. A little technical difficulties, but I'm finally getting where I want to be. And let's talk about the Patriots. Let's talk about the Cowboys. Let's talk about the NFL. Big week that just went by and big weeks to come.
Well, I got to tell you, ordinarily you would look at me and you'd say, well, I must be in a good mood today, because the Patriots won and all that. That was the suckiest, most mediocre game that I've seen in a long time. I know I'm spoiled, but I'm looking out there and you know what? I still get the Zappy fever. I do. I still have the Zappy fever, right? I'm looking at Mac Jones out there, and I do think he kind of got shafted at the beginning of the season when they got rid of Josh McDaniels and really didn't replace him with anybody, and he was trying to adjust and all that. So I'm with him on all that. But now that I've seen Zappy in there, and he's younger, I understand that, and he's not that tall, and he was throwing the ball into the defensive line against Chicago and everything, but he just seems to have some things that this guy doesn't have. I mean, you remember that last game when Zappy was actually throwing touchdown passes in the end zone? This game right here with Mac Jones, the only touchdown you had was the play before the touchdown. He threw like a screen pass to the side, and the guy rolled down to the 4-yard line. And then after that, he threw another little swing pass, and the ball was caught. And again, the guy just kind of dumped into the end zone, right? It was Jacoby Myers, I believe, right? The rest of the time was all field goals.
Yeah.
Every single time they get down to the red zone, it was like a gag job. Just stand there and get killed. It looked like Drew Bledsoe, the Statue of Liberty out there. I don't know. I just don't think he feels the pressure. I don't know. I just like the other guy better. I still do. I'm sorry about that. I know. I think Mac Jones kind of got railroaded there at the beginning of the year. But I got to tell you, you and I had talked about it before. I think what they should have done is they should have just rolled the wave. They should have played Zappy in the Bears game from the beginning. I really feel that even though Zappy had a bad second half, I think that if they had played Zappy from the beginning, they would have won that game. And if they played Zappy against the Jets, they would have won that game too. And now you would have had 3-4 in a row. That's just how I feel about it. I may be wrong. This is the eyeball test. This is not the X's and O's test. But, I thought Mac Jones, not really, a lot of it wasn't his fault because the offensive line was terrible and everything else. But he really didn't show me anything. I thought he was going to go out there and say, oh, yeah, you're thinking about giving the job to my backup. I'm going to show you. I'm going to go out there and really kick some ass out there. I thought he was terrible. I thought he was awful. And if it wasn't for that pick six getting called back because of that late hit, he might have been pulled in the second half. I mean, it was terrible. And he throws the ball to the same guy every time. I mean, when Zappy was out there, when Hunter Henry was involved, Jonnu Smith was involved, there were passes to a lot of different people. He was seeing the reads better, in my opinion. I don't know. I'm looking at the rest of the season here, and I'm thinking, I don't know. I don't like what I see. I'm sorry. That's just how I feel about it inside. So what do you think?
Well, it was definitely a far from perfect performance by the New England Patriots. And again, Paul, it starts with the offensive line. They've been struggling. You think about Strange, who had a lot of holding penalties. You think about Wynn and Cannon, who were struggling all day long. Yes, I do agree that the pivotal point was 10-3. You have a pick six going to be 17-3 Jets. Instead, roughing the passer. I thought the Pats got kind of lucky with that call, got them back into the game. Far from perfection performance, especially on that offensive side. But it was a badly needed win, Paul, after the Chicago debacle to come back at 500, be 4-4. Think about the next 2 games, with Indy and I'm trying to think of the Jets after that. So it's Indy and the Jets. Let's say they win that. They go back to 6-4, and they go back to last year, and that's where they were at that same point at 6-4. Now, of course, a tougher schedule down the stretch. So it'll be interesting to see how they hold up with that. But that being said, Paul, 13-0 since 2015 against the New York Jets. Did you expect them to lose that one? I don't know if you could or not, but when you're 13-0 going that long of time, you got a good rep of finding a way how to beat the Jets. They did what they needed to do. Is it perfection? Absolutely not. They got a lot of work to do. They have to figure some things out. But defensively, thought they were very strong, Paul. You talked about Sam Darnold when he played for the Jets against the Pats. He talked about seeing ghosts. I think Zach Wilson saw more ghosts than him. And it was near Halloween because he was throwing balls going, who is he throwing to? He looks like he's feeling pressure in the pocket and no one's there. And he's throwing passes to like New England guys instead of Jets guys. So I don't know what was going on out there, but people are seeing ghosts. I can't figure it out. But if you're that good against the Jets, you probably find a way to win the game, and they did.
Well, I know that people like yourself, the X's and O's guys, you probably don't like to get into the common opponents analysis. I think that's kind of like a juvenile kind of thing, but I love to do the common opponent thing, right? So I'm watching Monday Night Football the other night. So I'm going to ask you a question that you already know the answer to. What did Bailey Zappi do that Joe Burrow couldn't do? Beat the Cleveland Browns. So when they beat the Cleveland Browns, everybody said, wow, the Cleveland Browns, they suck. You know, that doesn't mean anything. The AFC champions couldn't even beat them. And Bailey Zappi went out there and beat them. So to me, that's something. I mean, that's not nothing, right?
No, it's not. But sometimes matchups favor you. Even Joe Burrow said after the game, we've been having trouble finding a way to beat the Cleveland Browns. They seem to have a number right now. Now, I don't know if it's about matchups. I don't know if they just know the schemes or what they're running better. Yeah, you see them 2 times a year compared to just once. You kind of figure some of that out. And Cleveland played, a pretty good zone defense. They came out tough. They had Garrett all over Burrow. Yeah, Burrow was missing his main man, Jamar Chase, as much as what the Pats are trying to do and find their receivers and get the running game going with Stevenson, all that stuff. But yet when you know that you're kind of favored going into that one on the road, after losing to Chicago, still a favorite over the New York Jets because you've won the last 13 against this team, something's got to favor them. And it worked out, obviously, for them. It's a road victory, 4-4. Unfortunately, still last in the AFC East. 6-1, obviously, Buffalo. 5-3, Miami. 5-3, the Jets. And 4-4, the New England Patriots. Is the division looking tough? It sure is. And it's only going to get tougher for New England when you have a schedule coming up, obviously. Vikings, Cincinnati, at Vegas, at Arizona, 2 times against Buffalo, and Miami again. So a lot going on right now. But you have the Colts this week and the Jets who you've won and you've been winning against. Think about those, Paul. Be 6-4 and then see what happens down the stretch. That's all you can look for. 1 week at a time.
How about that Lions game, right? With Bailey Zappi at the helm. The Patriots beat the Lions 29-0. You see what happened this last weekend? The Lions almost beat Miami. Right? I mean, I just when I look at that, I'm like, I know that's kind of like an amateurish analysis. It's not an X's and O's things as matchups and everything else. But I'm thinking when the Patriots beat the Lions, everybody said, well, the Lions suck. So we're not going to give Bailey Zappi or anybody any kind of credit. But then you got Tua out there, and he just barely, along with his team, won that game. So, I don't know. I like to look at those. I think it's fun, and maybe we'll pick up on that in a second. But we do have a phone call, so let's go to the call right away. Hello. You are on Santos on Sports.
Hey, Paul, this is Sonny.
Hey, Sonny. How are you?
I'm good. You tell your brother there to take it easy with his Cowgirls. They haven't played no good teams yet.
They haven't played any good teams, really. That's a strong statement there.
That's a very strong statement. They'll never beat the Eagles. They get the weakest schedule in pro football. So they're almost like New Bedford High School. Can't win.
Oh man. All right. Stay on the line now. Stay on the line. Let's get.
Hang on, Sonny. Hang on, pal. Hey, listen, Sonny. First of all, New Bedford beat Dartmouth last week, so they finally got their first win. Hey, as the schedule comes, like the Patriots, you play who's in front of you. You couldn't beat the Chicago Bears, but we could beat the Chicago Bears. So I'm feeling a little better about my Cowboys than I am about the Patriots. But I take it 1 week at a time. We beat the Giants. They got beat by Seattle. We're right where we want to be. We're right on the heels of the Eagles, who again have been playing well. Don't get me wrong. Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, and that team have done a great job. I think their schedule's been a little bit just like us, a little bit weak than normal. So, hey, when we play them again, it'll be at home. Hopefully we can split the series, go 1-1. Let's get ready for the playoffs. That's what I'm hoping for.
So, Sonny, you think the team that Chris roots for, of course, the Cowboys, he called them the Cowgirls, by the way. you think they're
I hear that all
fraud,
the
right?
time.
You think they're fraud?
Not so much fraud, but you can't compare New England's quarterback to the Cowgirls' quarterback.
Really?
New England's quarterback situation is in bad shape.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I think. I don't know what I think. It's sad.
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, do you like Zappy better than Mac Jones?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so there's another vote for another person whose Zappy fever is not broken.
I think the other guy's a crybaby.
All right.
He should have been a cheerleader.
What about Dak Prescott?
He hasn't been hit good yet. We're going to see about him. I like his backup better.
Okay. All right. Well, Sonny, thank you very much for calling. Really appreciate it.
All right, Paul. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, Sonny.
Thanks, Sonny.
We're gonna have to call him Swinging Sonny because he came out swinging. He took a shot at the Cowboys. He took a shot at Mac.
Hey, listen.
Call him a crybaby. Everything.
If he thinks Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi are better than Dak Prescott at this particular moment, well, obviously he has his opinion of that. And I said to you that last week, Dak coming back from the injury, he will be rusty, and he was, even though they won the game. I thought he would play better this week against Chicago, and he did. And so I'm hoping he just continues to progress the way that we know Dak can. Listen, my thing about Dak Prescott, and I've said this from day one, I don't mind the regular season. It's what can you do for me in the playoffs? That's what I'm looking for from Dak Prescott. If he can show me that, then I will be a huge fan. But until then, just don't be a regular season quarterback. Be a playoff quarterback as well. It's two different game types, and you need to have it. So I don't know what happened in the trade deadline today. I know there was a couple of moves. I don't know if Dallas made any moves. I'm looking forward to seeing that once we get off the air here. Look some of that stuff up. I know Chubb got traded to the Miami from the Broncos, and I know Hawkinson got traded to the Vikings from Detroit. So there's a couple of moves there. Hopefully there might be something down the stretch. And I know Jones was active, maybe looking to get somebody. Let's see what happens then.
All right, I got a comment here on New Bedford Live from Iris Cologne. She says, good job. So I don't know who she means, whether it's something I said, whether it's something you said, or Swinging Sonny over there. I'm not too sure. And Mark Sylvia watching from Chicago. I do believe he's working and might not be able to get away. We don't want him to get in trouble, on the job calling Santos on sports, but I understand he's listening. So he's still relishing in this, with the Chicago Bears win last week. So a shout out to the Windy City. And of course, if you want to give us a call like Sonny did, you see the number on the screen, 774-762-6234. But I've heard people say, some of the experts that like to break down the X's and O's like Chris does, that really Mac Jones really had a lot to handle there. That the Jets pretty good defense, one of the top defenses in the league, but they're throwing a lot of different schemes at him. A lot of the things that went wrong weren't really his fault. But I got to tell you, I don't know. I just see like there's something about the way he handles the pressure. Again, could it have been that he was rusty? When Dak came in, it took him about a half to get rolling. I don't know. We only saw Zappy a few times, but you and I talked about it. Just seemed to have some intangibles there, stepping up in the pocket. I mean, he threw that nice pass to Thornton in the end zone. You got another nice pass to Hunter Henry. And again, the coach, Belichick, always says, hey, it's not like we come out and we say this guy's going to get 2 catches, that guy's going to get 2 catches. It all has to do with what the defense is doing and so forth. But you got to figure that, Zappy was reading the defenses and looking around. And, when you look back at the tape, sometimes you look back and say, wait a minute, Hunter Henry was open, but Mac Jones never saw it. I don't know. There's just something about the way Jones versus Zappy, the way Zappy feels the pressure and does some of the intangible stuff, at least in my view, with the eyeball test. I don't know. What do you think about all that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a possibility. And I'm sure they're looking over film and they're trying to figure out, what's best moving forward. in the next games that we have, which is obviously the Colts, the Jets, the Bills, the Vikings, all the good upper echelon teams. And what makes us a better team? Now, is that pocket presence that I can move, escape pressure, step up under the pressure, which I thought New England did very well to Zach Wilson, which caused him to like see ghosts and have issues in the pocket to say, oh, I think someone's coming, even though someone's not there. Or I didn't read the defense the way I'm supposed to be. Now, does that take time, obviously, for Mac? Is it better for Bailey? That's yet to be determined. We don't know going in if Bailey would have done the same thing with what we saw from Wynn and Cannon and from Strange having those, difficulties on the offensive line, how he would have resulted better. It's really tough to say unless you saw him in that particular situation. So you have to go with what was in front of you. And right now it was Mac Jones. So if that's what they think was the best situation, and when they look at the film that they think Bailey can do better, then I'm sure they'll make a change. And if they're not, they're saying, no, this would be the same even if he was in there, then maybe Mac is the way to go. So that's something that the coaching staff will have to read on, figure it out, do their own X's and O's, and then come up with a solution coming in this week to Indianapolis, who just fired their offensive coordinator, benched Matt Ryan last week. So they got a lot going on right now. So I expect New England to play well against them. It's when they get back to the Jets the following week, how they react after that, home and away series and how that goes. As for Mark out in Chicago, he's very happy in one way. They just got Chase Claypool from the Pittsburgh Steelers in a trade as a wide receiver to boast up their offense. Unfortunately for him, though, he lost two of his great defensive players and to the Eagles, I believe, and the Ravens. So he's got a lot going on in defense, but he got something back in the offense. So he's got some draft picks coming in, and hopefully the Bears can get better as well.
Well, we're going to go back to the phones, but before we do, you're going to love this comment. We got a comment from Chad Barito, and he says, BB sucks.
Yes, Chad.
Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick sucks. Fire Bill Belichick. Wow.
Hey, listen, I've been talking to Chad now for a while, Paul, and Chad's been saying that for a year or two. He's been on the against the Bill Belichick bandwagon. He's been saying, I think it's time for Bill to go and something else step up. So, Chad, I appreciate you reaching in, pal. His son plays for Colorado State, Paul. He's a defensive lineman. So nice to see a local kid from Wareham getting in, making it good in college. Maybe someday drafted and maybe make the NFL as well. But he's been against Bill and he's sticking by his guns.
All right, Chad. And if you feel up to it and you're not busy and you're juggling work and stuff like that, you can also give us a shout there at 774-762-6234. We appreciate the comments and everything else. And we're happy, as Chris said, the success in your family and everything. But fire Bill Belichick. Wow, I'd like to explore that a little bit more. Let's go to Ryan. Ryan, you're on Santos on Sports.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Yeah, going pretty good. How are you?
Hey, Ryan.
Doing well. So I will say, in regards to this Sunday, I was a bit more impressed with Matt. That wasn't great. Obviously, if it stood, the pick six would have been god awful, and I think the Jets would have ended up winning that game. That ended up being a massive swing. Yeah. But I was impressed by that first drive to start the second half. That the Jets couldn't stop them on that drive. They've been holding it. They held them to 3-6 points that entire first half. Come out on that first drive, and that was clean. That was clean. But at the same time, it just came down to the fact that Zach Wilson's kind of trash. Like those interceptions, I thought those were going to be throwaways. Nope, three picks, and I was hoping that I did kind of like him coming out of the draft. But I thought it was kind of an overdraft to pick him at number 2 overall. But there's been zero improvement on that end. But I think not great, but on the part of Mac Jones, but definitely a much better tape than last week. I'll tell you that.
But didn't it feel like, Chris, that the Jets kind of kept handing the game to the Patriots? It's like, here, Patriots, you take it. No, guys, we're trying to hand it to you. You take it. You know what I mean? It was more that the Jets stunk than the Patriots were good.
Well, I think Ryan's correct, and I said this at the time. if that pick six held up and they went up 17-3, the way the Patriots offense was running and only getting field goals after that, it felt like it would have been a loss for New England. But they took advantage of the play and they got it to go their way. And we've seen it in the past. Plays like that have gone their way. And Tom Brady really took advantage of some of those. Well, hey, listen, Bill and Mac found a way, and they did it and won on the road, and they got enough to get the job done. Was it perfection? Absolutely not. But they still found a division win. They found a road win, which is obviously positive, Paul, in the locker room. And I think that's something the Patriots need, to have some more confidence in that locker room, leading forward at 4-4. And like I said, if they can win 2 games, they will be 6-4. And then in the same situation they were in last year at 6-4 at that time. So hopefully that will help them, give them some motivation, but easily could have been a loss, as Ryan predicted on that too.
Ryan, didn't it feel like the Jets were just so bad that even if the Patriots were like mediocre and bad, it was just the Jets were just god awful?
Exactly. Just particularly by the quarterback. Again, Zach Wilson was terrible in that game. Like, I think, if you had like Joe Flacco or Mike White in there making less mistakes, he probably would have won that game. And what was great too is that they kind of gave everyone a tease at the very end. They went down the field and scored, making it 17-22. Like, oh, look! If you get an onside kick, maybe they can go win this game. Nope, of course, because onside kicks are a rarity that they work nowadays.
Right, exactly. So they threw a little scare into him, but under the old rules, imagine if they had recovered that. I mean, the Patriots might have blown that game. And by the way, Chris, how about the fact that we get into the red zone, we can't get a touchdown. We just have to kick field goals. Now, it was good that they chose to kick the field goal most of the time. They did miss it on 4th and 1, and the other time they went and got it on 4th and 1. But, if it was for Nick Folk kicking all these like 50-yard field goals, right? If he misses one and the other guy hits one, now it's a totally different game. I mean, hey, the special teams are part of the game and everything else, but to have to rely on a bunch of field goals, that's not going to work against Buffalo and some of these other teams that you got to play.
No, you want to score. And, the red zone is a different situation than the 20 and 20. So when you're moving down 80 yards compared to, all right, now I'm at the 20, I get certain plays that I call in the red zone. And sometimes when you've been out for a while, Paul, it's tough to get that connection and that hookup. And I think that's a little bit more with Mac, to get him a little bit more situated with more red zone schemes, get involved in that. But Ryan, I really thought Zach really struggled. And almost like I said earlier about that Sam Darnold seeing ghosts. I mean, he was throwing balls to people like, I thought he was throwing to New England guys on purpose. It was like, who are you throwing to in this particular time? And then flushing out sometimes where like, there's no one really coming at you. Where are you going? And then took off. And, I get back to that because, when Sam said it a couple of years ago, and it just rings in my head, and I thought Zach was doing kind of the same thing. He really hurt the Jets on his own on Sunday.
How about that time he tried to throw the ball out of bounds and he missed out of bounds? I mean, out of bounds is like infinity, and he still missed the out of bounds and threw it to McCourty. It was horrible.
Yeah, it's simple. Throw it into the 5th row. You've got a big enough arm. Like it really did look like Sam Darnold a couple of years ago. I'm surprised they didn't put a mic on him.
It really did.
Say, I'm seeing ghosts, just like Sam a few years ago. It was ridiculous. They were a quarterback away from winning that game.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, and nothing against Flacco, who's older, and even White, who now I heard White's moved up to number 2 in the depth chart. So that puts a lot of pressure, obviously, on Wilson. But, yeah, there were situations there that you look and you go, wow, I can't believe that a professional quarterback is actually attempting this throw, or I'm throwing away. And, again, you're throwing into the coaching staff, into the bleachers, 5 rows up, whatever you can do. Really, really strange at some particular times there. So he's got a lot to call for. Hopefully they can regroup for the Jets. But again, New England puts that pressure on you. Their defense stepped up. Again, it wasn't a perfection performance from the offense, but they give you enough on the opposite side. Can they do that opposite side on the defense when you play the Bills twice, when you play the Vikings again, when you play the Jets one more time, things like that. So They've got to stop putting the pieces of the puzzle together. It can't just be one side dominating and the other side's down in the cellar.
Well, I think we've beaten the Zappy horse to death over here, so we don't want to keep saying that over and over again. But I do want to ask Ryan something over here. Going forward, right? Now that they've gone back to Jones, you can't keep going back and forth to this guy and we're going to go back to that guy and go back. That's a recipe for disaster. So I think you got to stay with this one guy and go. In my view, anyway, you can give your opinion if it's different. But I'm looking at that schedule, and hey, the Colts, I know great shakes, but the Jets, hey, they were they had a 5-game winning streak, a 4-game winning streak. And after they get the Vikings are hot, followed by the Bills. So I'm looking at this schedule, and Chris is right. You get to 6-4. That's the same as last year, but I don't see them getting from 6-4 to 10-7. Looking at the teams that they have to beat, I mean, this is rough down the stretch. What are your thoughts going forward? I saw that game, and I'm as pessimistic as I've ever been in the last 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. We saw it with the Colts last year with Carson Wentz as their quarterback. If they commit to just giving Jonathan Taylor the ball, we weren't able to stop that last year, and I don't think we really added any big guys to stop the run or anything. So I could easily see them doing that. Let's see how Sam Ellinger is. But if who knows what Zach Wilson's going to do the second time around? It might be the same thing. Maybe they just run the hell out of James Robinson. Even though he's not as impactful as Breece Hall was, and we saw that last week. He's still a good back, and I think the T.J. Hawkinson trade just pretty much cemented us losing to the Vikings. That just gives them another weapon, and the division has gotten better. What you guys had mentioned before, Bradley Chubb went to the Dolphins. That was a good trade, and just a few minutes ago, I think some news broke. Nothing significant from Buffalo's side, but I think they upgraded their backfield because they actually grabbed the guy from the Colts, Naheem Hines, who's a really good pass catching back. So it just gets more difficult from here.
All right.
Yeah, and I think that's a smart move by playoff teams. And when you have like Miami, who thinks they need defensively to get the quarterback more, they go out and get Chubb. Allen sits back and says, I'm just not happy. I can hit Diggs. I can hit some other guys, but I need someone in the backfield that can help me out. So now they go with Hines, a pass-catching guy, a third down guy. Think that's a good move from them. So teams that playoff bound, making significant moves today to sit back. Even the Vikings, who, if you thought at the beginning of the year, can Kirk Cousins get them where they want to? No, but okay, Irv Smith, high ankle sprain, going to be out for a while. Hey, let's go make the next move. Let's find me another tight end. They get a young kid, number 1 pick a couple of years ago by the Lions, get him in there too. So good move by those playoff teams to get the needs that they need to move forward down the stretch. And for New England, that's going to be a little bit more difficult because now that's another guy in their head when they play Buffalo twice coming out of the backfield. Now we got to stop him, who probably adds speed, which New England struggled with speed last year on defense against Buffalo.
All right, Ryan. Well, we really appreciate your call, as we always do. You always make a nice contribution to the show. And, hey, we'll see what happens. We got the Colts, and then I believe after that's the bye week. So let's see if we can get up over 500 and then see what happens and have a season. It's more fun, of course, if you have a chance to make the playoffs, even though you're not going to go anywhere after that. But anyway, that 7-win prediction I think you had. Didn't you have a 7-win prediction, or was it 6?
It might have been 6, but it's looking more like I'm 1 win off.
All right, but you're closer than I was. I mean, I was so optimistic with my rose-colored glasses, predicting a 9 or 10 win season. Oh my God, a lot's going to have to happen. But anyway, thanks very much for calling as usual.
No problem. Thanks for having me on, guys.
All right, that's
Thanks,
Ryan from Mattapoisett. Chris, I've heard people say, "Hey, the Patriots had a great game. They turned the ball over and all this," but
yeah,
I'm looking at it like I don't think. I mean, I think that the Jets' offense was just so bad. You talked about Zach Wilson not being able to throw the ball out of bounds. One of them was tipped, and it was like we're playing center field, waiting for the ball to come. The other one, he tried to throw it out of bounds. It went right to McCourty. Not to take anything away from McCourty. McCourty did a great job, intercepted the ball and all that. But I don't think the Patriots' defense was that great. I mean, it was really that the Jets were just so bad, and I think there's a difference there. Then I watched the Buffalo game after I watched the Patriots, and I'm like, it was like watching a JV game and then watching the varsity.
Yeah, Buffalo looks very good. Thought they should have beat Green Bay by more than what they did, but that's another story. But let's talk about the Pats here for a second, Paul. looking at stats, 24 for 35 for 194, one touchdown, one interception. Now, 24 for 35 is pretty good, but the 194 means to me it's a lot of checkdowns. It's a lot of I can't get 1 and 2. I got to go to the back. So now let's look up receiving. First receiver, Stevenson, 7 for 72. Check down. I can't get the ball down the field to get my Myers, to get, some of them bigger guys. Even Myers had 9 catches. He had the most, but only 60 yards. Then you have Harris. You got Henry, only 1 catch. Smith with 3 catches, but only 10 yards. So a lot of short, dinking passes, nothing really stretching the field out, maybe more than what they need. So, it's kind of conservative in a way, but at the same time, it depends on what the Jets are giving you for a defense in this scheme. And we know that they're pretty good. So you rely on your defense to help you out, and then you need mistakes. And obviously, I thought the Jets made a lot on offense, led by Zach Wilson. So, it worked out that way in their favor. Hopefully they regroup and they get ready for Indy this week, who's been struggling on offense. Just fired their offensive coordinator, got a new guy in this week.
All right, keep those comments coming in. If you'd like to give us a voice call, you can do that at 774-762-6234. We always enjoy that. Got a further comment from Mark out there in Chicago. He says,
Yep.
You guys do realize I'm a Patriots fan and not a Bears fan. Okay, that's the first thing. Okay. Second thing is, I agree with the comment about Bill Belichick, about firing Bill Belichick. That's another one. And then I was talking about, was it 7 wins? Is it 9 wins? What are we going to end up with this season at the end? Well, Mark Sylvia, and I'm sure he's not guaranteeing any of this,
Right.
but he says wins: Colts, Jets, Cardinals, Dolphins at home, Raiders and Bengals at home. Losses: Buffalo twice and losing to the Vikings. There you go. There's your 10-7 right there.
Well, I mean, listen, that's really good. I know he's a Patriot fan, but he moved to Chicago. He understands what the Bears are all about, and he's followed them, and he knows what they let go on defense, what they're trying to improve on offense. Give Fields some weapons to throw to. Give Fields more than just using his legs. Probably need some offensive line guys to help him out. So he's looking for the long picture, even though he's a Pats fan. But being in Chicago, he follows them. It's a prediction, Paul, that a lot of people have said that they could get back to that again last year at 10-7. My question is, can 10-7 lead them to a playoff with Miami and even the Jets still in that division can make their way up at 5-3 with their schedules to be better than 10-7? And can that make the playoffs for the Patriots, or can it not?
Philip McDonald had a comment here today. Nice to hear from you, Philip. He says 5 field goals. We lucked out. Wilson looks like a third string in college.
Well, in that game, he did absolutely. He looked very frazzled. He got rattled, and he made some throws that you sit back and go, who would do that? But it was a poor performance from him. Hopefully he regroups from that, because we've seen a better Zach Wilson. There's no doubt about it. He plays a lot better than what we saw on Sunday. So give the Pats defense some credit. And at the same time, errors from Zach Wilson really cost them.
Hey, there's a comment over here. We don't encourage, to go too far off the rails, but I'm actually enjoying this. Somebody on here says, Santos, I'm just wondering if you're a dumbass. I'm like, wait a minute. Now, hey, give us a call. It's all right. 774-762-6234.
What's he asking?
He's asking if I'm a dumbass. I don't know.
Is that you, me, or both of us?
Well, actually, he said Santos. Yeah, so I don't know what. I already assumed he meant me.
Hey, it could be me too.
Then somebody said, somebody asked the first guy if he was a dumbass, so they went back and forth. I don't know. I don't want to get into that kind of a thing, but I don't know. I don't know who he was talking to. Yeah, when he's
call in, let us know. What your thoughts were on what we said, whether it was Paul or myself. Or both, and give us your opinion. That's why we're here. We're here to talk sports. We're here to talk Patriots, and give us your opinion, what you thought about Sunday and moving forward. Love to hear from you.
That's right. Absolutely. 100%. Actually, if you
Yeah.
disagree with us, even better, give us a call and let us know what you think. As we said, at 774-762-6234. Again, thanks to our sponsors, Scotty's Pub, Citywide Glass, Lakeville Athletic Club, and attorney John Seed. We really, really appreciate it. And let's see. Ryan, Fast and Furious. He said, and I completely forgot to mention when he called in before, the Dolphins got Jeff Wilson from the 49ers, a quality running back who McDaniel is very familiar with. So there you go. Another team, again, Dolphins getting stronger.
You know, it's pieces of the puzzle right now, Paul, at trade deadline. It's needs that you've seen from 8 weeks of football. What's going to make us better? What can we do? What do we need? And you go out and you reach out to teams and say, what can we afford? What can we pay? What can we give up? And if it's something that works out in your favor, then you say, bang, let's go do it. We saw McCaffrey, great week with San Francisco, what he did. Let's see if what happens today at the trade deadline, which again ended at 4:00, even though it's like 4:38. So, more things happening, these late moves at the end. So let's see if anything else happens. But it's teams that think, we can make a run here. And if we can get a certain player, it will help us out. And that's what they're doing.
And, the Patriots, right? It's kind of like the Red Sox, right? Remember when it got to the trade deadline, it's like, okay, are we sellers or are we buyers?
Right.
It's kind of like, teams that are on the cusp of winning the Super Bowl, like a Buffalo or, I don't know if Miami thinks they have an outside shot to do something in the playoffs. But if you're a team that's looking at like, well, wait a minute, we're not going to win this year. So then you end up in a different kind of a spot. What do you do? It's really, really tough to make that call.
Well, where do you see New England right now, Paul, if they wanted to make a move? What would you like to see? You spent money on Henry and Smith. Does that mean you want another tight end? Do you want more in the receiving department? Do you want from the backs? Or do you want to go defense? Do you want to get, another lineman to get to the quarterback? More linebackers with speed? Or do you want the defensive backs? So where would you go there? Me personally, a guy like Claypool, that might have been nice for New England. Maybe a more upgrade in the wide receiver department. So, that's something to think about. The other ones, I don't see it too bad with Harris and Stevenson. I like that. It's very hard to trade for an offensive lineman. That usually doesn't happen, even though you may need that position. But not too often you go out and trade offensive linemen. So tough to say.
El Product typed in a moment ago, keep Zappy on the field and we will be all right. Well, guess what? We got El Product on the line. Hello.
Hey.
Welcome to the show.
Well, Zap's the best whoever did it and got away with it. I got to give credit when credit's due. When he came in, we was down, and he came in and got right to work. Belichick starting Mac that game, just the momentum and it went in. But when he came in and got right to work, I knew right there, this is the guy for the Patriots right now. Just the fans, everybody is just a different environment when he's in there. Everybody feels the eye of the tiger. Something about him.
So when he did that in the first half, and he got some production when he came in, but the second half, he really didn't do anything, and they didn't get any points. So Bill seems like reverted back to Mac and said, well, I'm going to go back to him and start it up again, and I'm going to stay with one guy. Now, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying that Zappy probably could be a starter, and Paul thinks that he should be.
Yeah, and the defense didn't play that well that game, too.
I said to Paul.
But, at the end of the day, I look at got to roll with, we won. It was a good decision. But I'm noticing when we watch the game, it's just like a few things is missing. Something missing there. It's like, I think when he's staying height, he's thinking about getting hit.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's about who can put points on the board.
Hit and more about getting hurt. Like, I just feel that Zappy's the type, he's old school. You remember back in the day with football, less padding, your finger could be broken, but you're still out there. It was like, football, get out there. 3rd and 15. I just broke my finger, but they still was out there. I just feel that in him. He has it.
Well, we talk about people who can put points up on the board for you. And it seems like Zappy's done that a little bit more than Mac, even though Mac did get one touchdown on Sunday. But, it's about
And it's like
finding
a
production
lot
in the
of
red zone.
the teams seem like they together. Like, you know that team spirit when you was talking about earlier in the locker room.
Yep.
It just seems like when he's on the field, that it's like that team spirit is there.
Well, I got to tell you, I agree with you. Now that they put Mac back in, again, you can't be switching back and forth. So I think that kind of stuck with what we're doing now. But again, I would have had Zappy play that game against the Bears, see how he did. As long as you keep winning, you keep playing. If you blow that game, then maybe you go back to the other guy. But now that he's put Mac in there, that playing both of them at the same time, what a disaster that was. But El Product, I agree with you on that. I agree with you riding that wave kind of thing, right? That's what you're thinking?
Yeah, I was thinking right the wave. It kind of got, I want to say it kind of got messed up, but when he came in and got right to work, that let me know, like, yeah, we should have just started him off like that because, momentum could change a whole game.
All right. Well, thank you very much for being on the line with us.
Thank you.
All right. El Product from Boston. I think we had another call on the line, but I think we may have lost them. So now the line is open. Give us a call, 774-762-6234. This whole Zappy thing, it's hard to know really for sure. And you and I talked about it. In fact, I think even you were in favor of playing him in that next game against the Bears and, just ride the wave and all that, which I was surprised in a way because, you're looking at it more of an X's and O's point of view. But, people are looking back and, they still got that in the back of their mind. Like, what would have happened, if he had been in there. But I want to get to this caller. So let's say hello. You're on Santos on Sports.
Gentlemen, how's it going?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Hey, there he is.
Doing a great job.
Thank you.
Hey, it's been up and down, hasn't it? Boy, I'll tell you, at the end of this season, we're going to look back and see whether, this team had what it takes to get over some adversity or not. But I got to tell you, with the trade deadline, I agree with Chris. I would love to see some help on the offensive line. But, I doubt you're going to trade for an offensive lineman and get him on up to speed and all that stuff. And I don't know if it'd make a difference. The offensive line is really something that takes time and people need to be together for a while. But I do think that, I think that was a big win, winning against the Jets in New York, regardless of how the way, it's a W. In the NFL, it's hard to get a win. And they went in there and they got a win. And New York was riding high in first place, and they were going to exercise demons. And it says a little bit about the Jets. They choked. They coughed all over themselves. They exercised demons and have to beat the Patriots, made a big deal out of it. And, so I think that says a little bit more for the Patriots as well. They kind of stuck by their game plan. They put Mac in there. I listened to some stuff today where some of the pros were talking about how they watched the films and, even Mac's interception was probably the receiver's fault and, that he probably played better than what everybody thought. But, it's the NFL. And a win's a win, and we'll see what happens this week.
Chris, any thoughts?
No, and I agree with him because I've said this before. A lot of parity in the NFL, and we go about every week making picks and figuring out who can beat who, and it's never a science. It's always one of those kind of, hey, any week anybody can beat anybody. You saw the Jets go up to Lambeau, beat Aaron Rodgers in Lambeau, come back home, have some confidence, saying, hey, New England couldn't beat Green Bay in Green Bay. That means we should be able to take New England. Doesn't work that way. Division rival. You see a lot of things happening. Lost 13 in a row against New England. Next thing you know, you get the hype. You get a little thing not go your way. Patriots take advantage of it. We've seen them do it even when Brady was quarterback. I've seen them come out of there with 12-10 victories, 15-13 victories, but they find a way to win the game, whether it's defense, offense, special teams. You didn't win all the phases of the game, but you found the way to win. And when you do it on the road, it's no better in the NFL. You got Belichick now. That extra win gets by Papa Bear Hallis. moves him up. Now he's chasing Don Shula. They soaked him with the champagne. They were all pumped up. Now let's get ready for the Colts and the stretch drive, with the Jets and then everybody else after that.
Hey, Butch, what do you think about Bill Belichick? Because we're getting a lot of comments here like, hey, this guy, he's screwing up a lot, and then you mentioned the offensive line, right? First of all, he gets Cole Strange in the first round. He's had some good games, but he struggled. He's a young player. And they had a Pro Bowl offensive lineman, and they wouldn't pay him. They let him go, right? So he lets go people that are borderline Pro Bowlers. It doesn't really replace him with anybody. That's the first thing. Then secondly, that plan of playing both quarterbacks against the Bears, that was the most embarrassing decision I've ever seen. Now, far be it from me to question the greatest coach of all time, but I don't know. I think he's really shown a lot of weaknesses over the last couple of years. I understand it's a rebuild and so on and so forth, but I don't know, like this whole, the magic of Bill and in Bill we trust. I don't know. I'm starting to struggle with that a little bit, and I always thought that all the time, that whole Patriot way thing. I'm starting to rethink all that.
Well, I certainly understand that. When things when the going gets tough, it takes some stamina and some courage to stick behind what you believe in. And Patriots fans are getting rattled now. There's sports fans and then there's pink cats. I thought it was disgusting what the fans did to Mac Jones. When against the Bears and booing them, and I thought that was terrible. I thought, how spoiled are these people? Where this is the way it works in the NFL for most of the other teams. Not everybody had Tom Brady, where this longevity of 20 plus years of consistent, excellent play. And even Bill Belichick hasn't had to coach that type of weakness at the quarterback for so many years. I do agree with you that there's been some decisions that will, jog that confidence, but you gotta, it's like the stock exchange. You gotta kind of hang in there a little bit, especially if you believe in one of the best coaches of all time. And Chris brought it up. There's a lot of parity in the NFL. The rules are designed to have parity. The rules are designed to penalize or make it more difficult for long-term success. There's a lot of rules that want to have a different team win the Super Bowl every year, the smaller market teams. The way the draft happens and different things like that. So, there's a lot of things that Bill is competing against, but I understand, and even myself, I'm a big Bill guy, right? Bill we trust. But, I'm hanging in there. I still think, look around the league. Look around the league at what some of these coaches do on Sunday. I watch football with Chris every Sunday, and there's there's a few coaches out there that, we talk about all the time. We talk about coaches that are afraid to pull the trigger and make some changes. Bill makes and it wasn't a good decision. So, hey, hang in there. I agree with you. I agree with the offensive line, trading some people. I think him, no one, he was like one of the greatest offensive line coaches of all time.
All right. But you're breaking up just a little bit, but we'll pick up on the topic that you brought up, and we thank you very much for calling. All right, Butch on the line right there. I think he's almost looking at it like, hey, and I'm one of them. I'm guilty. We've had all this success for 20 years. Zappy comes in. It's like, Zappy. He's right on the first point that he made. Really was unfortunate that, Mac Jones is out there and immediately the fans are booing him and chanting Zappy. He really didn't deserve that. You know what I mean? But that's just, the fans get caught up on the latest thing. And that's what happened. But, I don't know that if I'm him, that would kind of stick in my craw going forward a little bit, I think.
Well, here's what I'm looking at, Paul. All the years of success of 20 years of the New England Patriots under Tom Brady and Bill Belichick and the personnel surrounded. Unfortunately, longevity finally gets to you, and now you got to take people out and you got to put people in. If Bill Belichick, from that time that Tom left to now, went 1-16, He went 2-15. Then I could say we got issues. But when you still go 10-7, have winning records with a different personnel, with different coaching staffs, with different quarterbacks, with different receivers and running back and defensive, and people leave and people come in, and you still have winning seasons, I still think you're a good coach. You can't go and do those same things with what's going on, with people retiring, with people getting traded, with people in the business. You know how difficult that is? That is so difficult. It's unbelievable. Is it spoiled? Whatever you want to call it. I still think he does a good job, but you're so used to winning with what you've had. Now you've lost it. Well, it doesn't matter who we get. We're still going to do the same thing. It doesn't work that way. I know they think it should be, but it doesn't work like that. You can get a guy here and a guy there and still have the main core and make it work. But when the main core leaves, it doesn't work like that. And I think that's what people are not getting. And still, they're in the hunt year after year. And people still talk about the New England Patriots. That's what I say. I still don't think it's that bad.
Well, that was a very persuasive, good argument you made there. I feel like I'm in a courtroom against a very
I just don't.
very good opponent. Right, you hit all the points. No, it is true. You know, when you step
It's
back
hard.
and think about it, and even
Yeah.
Butch mentioned that you look around the league and you see some of these, dumb bozo decisions that are being made week after week, clock management, going forward on 4th down and 5 when you have no chance, and calling a dumb play on a 4th down, and not kicking a field goal where you could have won the game, and all these kind of stuff, And then you look at Bill with all the different personnel. Yeah, they're not going to be a Super Bowl contender, but just the fact that you're in the hunt, not every coach can do that. So you make a very good point. Now, I did want to really got about 5-6 minutes left.
Sure.
It looks like Ime Udoka might be going over to the Nets to coach the Nets. Now, I heard the rumor first, and now it's looking like it may happen. So again, the only comment I would have about that is what exactly happened, because nobody really said what happened. I know he had an extramarital affair, terrible thing and everything. But other than that, we don't really know exactly what he did. Now, somebody said, well, I know what happened and it was horrendous, but we really don't know what happened. So the question is, should he be able to get a job that quickly? To me, the answer is, well, I don't know, because I don't really know what happened.
Well, here's two thoughts. First one is, it took more than probably a half an hour that you get rid of Steve Nash, part ways, and a half an hour later say Udoka is going to be our next head coach, which then Celtics should get compensation because he's still on the contract with them from the Brooklyn Nets if they decide to get him. So to me, it's all, wait a minute. We're 2-5. Let's get rid of this guy because this guy's in the waiting, and he knows Kevin Durant, and Durant likes him, and they're good friends. So let's go get him, and let's make it. I think it's a conspiracy, personally. I don't like the way it worked out. I could see if it took a week, 2 weeks. I'm talking 30 minutes, Paul. 30 minutes, and Udoka was already considered the next head coach of the Brooklyn Nets. What does that tell you? That's unbelievable.
Right, and Udoka, of course, was an assistant coach over there in Brooklyn, so he's familiar with everybody. And they already knew what they were going to do. They already had made the decision what they were going to do when Udoka became available. And I heard some talk that maybe the Celtics would just release him from whatever contractual obligations. But it seems to me there should be some compensation. Why would you just let him walk? Why would you just let him walk? Yeah, I know. There's no. Any comments on, before we go on the Celtics? They started out pretty well. They lost, I think, their last game, but hey, they're considered to be favorites to contend for the championship. They made some additions. I mean, I don't see why they shouldn't be contenders for a championship.
No, I agree with you. Tatum and Brown stepped up their game as we thought they would. Brogdon's come in, done a good job so far. We've had, White do some things. Horford was banged up a little bit, gave him some time off, trying to get his legs back in. So a lot going on. They've won some good home games. They got beat by Chicago on a Monday night when the Pats were on against Chicago. That was a bad day for New England because they had gotten beat at Chicago and they were ahead early, but the Bulls came back. So no, I got confidence in the Celtics to be right there come playoff time and hopefully down the stretch with what they have. So let's see how that all plans out. Hopefully they get away from, the coaching debacle with Udoka and all his issues, and they set that aside and they say, hey, let's play our game. The one thing I'm a little concerned about is who's coaching them now is supposed to be the guy who put in this defense that's supposed to be really good. And even though the Celtics have been kind of giving up a lot of points on defense, so I'm hoping they right the ship there and get back to playing solid D to go with that offense.
Well, another one of my teams has the best record in their league. Best record in their league. Not the black and gold that Chris roots for. Chris roots for the wrong black and gold. He roots for the Pittsburgh Penguins, but the Boston Bruins off to a great start. And I know they're relatively old as far as the main guys, Bergeron and Krejci just got hurt, but hopefully he'll be back. But you still got obviously some guys in their prime. McAvoy's coming back. Pasternak is in his prime, pumping in goals. Marchand came back earlier than we thought. The defense is looking better. And how about Ullmark? For some reason, Ullmark, who I thought was never going to surface as a hot number one goalie, he's kind of taken the reins away from Swayman and has been playing unbelievable. He made an unbelievable save in the shootout where the guy deked him and he just swatted the puck away with his glove hand. Just one of the best saves I've ever seen in a shootout. So how about those Boston Bruins? Off to a great start. A lot of people said you got to at least get a pretty good 4 or 5 games over 500 before we get to Thanksgiving, which seems to be that rule where if you're in the playoff hunt around Thanksgiving, you can usually go the rest of the way with all the 3-point games. So I'm very pleased that the Bruins got off to this great start.
Well, you have to be, Paul. I mean, think about it right now. They're 8-1. Okay. Now, listen, me and you going in, if we sat down and talked about this and said, okay, Paul, start the season, no McAvoy, no Grzelcyk, no Marchand. Okay, Bergeron, you got Krejci back, Ullmark, Swayman. You think they'd be 8-1 right now? Absolutely not. What does that mean? It means they're buying into the game plan of what their head coach has given them, more aggressive on defense, finding the open man, less turnovers, which is huge, and obviously getting contributions from first, second, and third lines. Now they get Marchand back from the hip earlier than expected. Says he feels the healthiest he's been in years, which is awesome. Scores 2 goals in the first game. Supposed to get McAvoy back. Play my Penguins tonight on ESPN, 8 o'clock. If any of you want to see some good hockey, tune into that because that should be a good one in Pittsburgh. And so think about how the Penguins will fare up against a team that's really hot right now. They're 8-1, a great start, and they're doing things the right way. And Paul, it's interesting because to me, doesn't it look like they seem very happy than they did when they had Cassidy behind the bench?
Oh, I was just going to mention that, looking back at it now, and we talked about
very happy.
I kind of like Cassidy, I thought he was like, tell it like it is and all that. But now that he's gone, and we find out that Bergeron, apparently the reasonable inference is that he didn't like him. Krejci wouldn't even play for him. They said, well, Cassidy was too rough on the younger players. Well, shake it off, younger players. You're millennials. You can handle a little bit of criticism and all that. Hey, maybe behind the scenes, Cassidy was kind of a first-class a-hole, and this guy came in, and he kind of pulled things together, and, he's not ripping everybody to shreds every 2 seconds, and maybe this is going to work better.
Great question for Billy Jaffe. Great question for Barry Peterson. Great question for Hegarty. And the Bruins and the Boston Globe and all the inside reporters, because we don't know what goes on behind the scenes, Paul. This is a perfect example of what we, the public, do not know about the players and their coaching staff, what they like, what they dislike. We just see it go out there and expect everything to work perfectly. I'm sure it's the same with the Celtics. I'm sure it's the same, obviously, with the Patriots. So here's a perfect example of what now seems happy in Boston and for the Bruins at 8-1 leading the East. It's just a great story right now.
All right, so if you're watching this live, Pittsburgh Penguins and the Boston Bruins tonight, that should be a great game. All right, we'd like to take this opportunity to thank our sponsors, attorney John Seed, 156 8th Street in New Bedford. You can get more information about him at johnseedlaw.com. We've got Lakeville Athletic Club, 325 Bedford Street in Lakeville. You can play tennis, pickleball, and more. And see this guy right here? This guy plays sometimes for the Lakeville Athletic Club. There he is right there.
I do.
Very competitive gentleman right there. See, he's got a smile on his face and all that. But then you put him between those lines, and he's a tough customer over there, right? He has those steel eyes, and he comes right after you. Citywide Glass, 3 locations to serve you: 425 State Road in Dartmouth, and other locations in Fall River and Taunton, and Scotty's Pub, 202 Pleasant Street in Fall River. Wow, thank you very much for all of those folks that commented, and we got some different calls today. We got a new caller today, so thank you so much for calling in. It was Swinging Sonny, man. He was going right after those Dallas Cowboys, man.
Cowgirls.
Yeah, he was calling you the Cowgirls. Your team, the Cowgirl. Wow, he was slugging it.
All right.
And then I think he said something about Mac Jones, and then we had people fire Bill Belichick. And, oh boy, we were all over the place today. But anyway, that was a lot of fun, and we'll see what happens next week. Always a pleasure, Chris.
Paul, always a pleasure. This week, the Colts in town. Indy really struggling. They haven't got going. One of the best running backs in the game, haven't got him going. Matt Ryan out, Ellinger in, new offensive coordinator. You got to kind of like the Patriots until the Colts get their feet settled in again. So I think New England pulls out another victory.
And this is a game that we definitely need in order to get into position to actually have a shot coming down the stretch with the way their schedule is so tough. All right, for Chris Santos, I am Paul Santos. Thank you so much for watching here today. Santos on Sports. And let's see, I'm trying to sign off, but I think my mouse just went dead.
Uh-oh.
Wait a minute. Let's see what we're doing over here. Can you still hear me?
I sure can.
All right, something funky is going on with my laptop over here.
Uh-huh.
I'm not the only one. Okay, here we go. For Chris Santos, I'm Paul Santos. We'll see you next time for another Santos on Sports. Have a great night.